All right, what's up, people? Welcome to a very special interview piece that we're doing here over at the Koalition. So, as many of you know, my name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at thecoalition.com and, of course, here over on the Coalition on YouTube. So, as many of you know, and as you can see, I am a collector of many things. I do collect machines and toys and figures and all stuff, but I do have some that are near and dear to me. One in particular, boom, branding, G.I. Joe. I love my G.I. Joe, especially classified. Shout out to Manny. He got me hooked again when they started the classified series. Anyway, as you know, also from the Throwdown show, I'm constantly talking about these things and I have all the stuff around me. So I was like, you know what? Let me pull back the curtain a little bit. Let me not just talk about the Joes and all this stuff, but bring on somebody that I am friends with, that I follow, that is a great content creator when it comes to G.I. Joe. Especially G.I. Joe. He does action figures also, but G.I. Joe particularly is pretty awesome. So let me bring on Lawrence, aka A Punk with Toys. What's up, Lawrence? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for hello, everyone. I don't know what else to say.
Exactly. What else to say?
I should know how to say hi. I mean, I do it twice a week live.
Well, you know what? It's always a new experience, but again, it's new. As I was telling you off camera, for our audience, we cover a lot of things: shows, games, products, all this stuff. But when it comes to toys and this and that, it's more of there, but we never really talk about it. And I was like, well, yeah, I can talk about it, but I know somebody even better that can talk about it. I know somebody who actually does the reviews and in-depth reviews, and his name is Lawrence, aka Punk with Toys. So I was like, let me bring him on and let's just really get into this. So thanks again for joining me. This is
Oh
going to be
no,
good.
no! Thank you for asking me. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes.
I actually don't get asked to do interviews too often, which I do find odd. But I spent enough time in this chair, as I mentioned before. Can I say something to begin?
Go for it.
You talked about me being a GI Joe content creator, and I do a lot of it. I do not have a GI Joe shirt. Isn't that crazy?
Maybe we need to get you one.
I bought one and it was too tight. I think I gave it to my daughter. Like, this is from Joe Fest, so it's not an actual. I have like Marvel, I have numerous Star Wars and punk ones and skateboard ones, but I don't have a GI Joe shirt.
Oh my!
You think I have at least one?
You have to have one. I'm telling you. See, that's it. People now they're gonna poo-poo you. We're gonna get it in the comments. They're like, he's not a real collector. How dare he not have a shirt? Oh, poser 101, 2 down votes. Right? There's always gonna be that. All right. But brief intro for people that are not familiar. They're like, who is this guy? What's going on here? So, like he just mentioned, he does amazing reviews. I'm saying the word amazing. He doesn't have to say it. I appreciate it. I like it. I see the work that goes into it. He does a long form, dare I say, Bob Ross style, because that's the way I see it. You start off right at the front. It's like, hi, it's me. Here's a product. On you, you're like there in your chair, and you swivel around, and there's your workstation. And man, you can sit back for the next 15, 20 minutes. You will see stuff on these figures that my 47-year-old eyes will never see. I would have never known some of the stuff that you detect, if it wasn't for watching your videos. I mean, you go so in depth, zooming in, comparing, doing the joints, and then you apologize. Right now, I'm telling you, don't apologize. Never apologize, because that is what makes you a standout from so many others that are doing this. Because they could easily just like, oh, take a look. It bends this way. Oh, it's got some articulation. Drop down hips. Thanks, like and subscribe. No, you don't do that. You're actually breaking down the figure. You're showing it. You're really going in a deep dive, which is fantastic. And then when you think it's done, I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, there we go. That was great. All right. So what the hell? Oh, shit. He's got the O-ring also. And now you're comparing the O-ring, which people don't know that's the original Joe's, with the classified series. And I'm like, shit. Well, next thing you know, he's going to break out the actor from the cartoon series. He fucking has everybody. It's like, it's fantastic. It's a great package. And that's the main plus. That's what I want people, if real quick, before we go through the whole thing, that they understand this is what it's about. You're creating a great product when it comes to these reviews. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you. And that was actually, I'll give you a brief. I started reviewing I started comparing. I wouldn't even call them review. I was comparing the O-rings to the original classified figures because when they came out, I really wasn't into collecting. I was trying to trying to pick up as many of the O-rings that I didn't have, but I didn't see anyone comparing the two. I didn't know anything about the toy industry at the time. And it was one of those things, no one else was doing it. And it has become my thing. I don't always have the O-ring. I have a lot of them, but I also find myself, I was at Joe Fest in Naugahyde. I got hit with it and it was on its way. So I went and found a Naugahyde, which I didn't have. And I'm like, well, I might as well just grab one for $20 that's here. And then I had it to compare. And the amount of things that I have found on the O-rings is something else. Like, you don't notice the detail on the O-rings because you're 5, 7, 8 years old. Like, yeah, I'm playing with them.
Wasn't even doing it. Exactly. All right. There we go. Before we go, I just wanted to get that little intro. Now let's rewind. Here we go. The year 1980 something. A young Lawrence walks into a Toys R Us. Oh, the glory days of Toys R Us. What are you gravitating to as a kid? What were you collecting?
Okay, so, man, I ask everyone that comes on my show this question, and I've never sat there and thought about it.
There you go. It's on you. It's on you now.
It would always, well, since G.I. Joe came out, it would have always been G.I. Joe. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to go before that, it was Hot Wheels and Matchbox. I remember my dad had some certificate that I had like every single Matchbox car, but it must have been a collection because there were so many. He had a certificate he was very proud of that he sent in.
Were they rare? Were they rare ones? Maybe that's it.
I don't think so. I mean,
limited edition. I don't know. I
have no idea. I just remember thinking, I'm like, and for the longest time I thought I had like every Matchbox car like at a certain age, but when you look back at it, it's like, no, that wasn't even possible. There was some certificate that he had, and I remember. Again, you're close to my. I just turned 49. Sure. The like those Hot Wheel or Matchbox. I think they were Matchbox. They opened up so you could take them to Grandma's house. They were like little cities. There was.
It was like it looked like a car, but then it would carry more cars. And is that it, or you're talking about the ones that actually had like a gas station?
Yes,
you would open. All right, the gas station, and you open it up, and all the cars were inside, and you already had a little play set, but it was also a carry set. Yeah.
I would take that to my grandmother's. I always loved the car wash because I always got the sponges wet. Probably not the best idea because they didn't clean anything. But it was that, and then obviously Star Wars. That was huge. And I had a lot of figures, not a lot of vehicles. But I can remember. I can remember exactly what I was doing, where I was, what I was playing with, the moment I saw that first G.I. Joe commercial. I mean, that is how much it resonates, with me. And I can remember the first figures that I got. I mean, I can remember, like, there's certain things that just resonate with me. I mean, I don't know if you want to know the story or not.
Yeah, go for it, man. This is your life. Here we go.
Again, you're going to go a long time here. No, I was sitting in front of the TV. It was like one of those silver, TVs.
Yeah, tube, all right.
On a stand that probably shouldn't have held anything because they're all wobbly. And I was playing with the Lone Ranger and Tonto and their horses, along with Star Wars and the snow speeder there. And that first G.I. Joe commercial came on. And I can remember being just mesmerized. And I turned around to my dad and I said, can I get one of those? And he said, well, we'll see. And that was my first memory of G.I. Joe. And we went into, people our age will remember, Sears. Well, first off, you'll remember Sears as a store to begin with.
Sears, Alexander, there was all those type of stores
and
there.
Sears had a wonderful toy department. And we walked through the toy department and I saw the G.I. Joes and I said to my dad, I said, can I get one? And he said, get 2 vehicles.
Wow. And I grabbed so 2 vehicles were available. All right.
Well, the first wave had like clutch, the clutch and vamp. It had the MMS and Hawk. The original, the original 13 also encompassed different the figures with the vehicles. So I walked in and he said, get 2 vehicles, and I grabbed the vamp and I grabbed, I want to say it might have been the Whirlwind. And he said, well, why don't you put this back and grabbed that one because that comes with a figure also. And it was the I can't even think of the name of it. It's the one with Grand Slam. And he goes, because that comes, or no, I'm sorry. It was
The
it was the
Vampire
MMS
Collection.
with Hawk.
Okay.
It was the MMS with Hawk. And he goes, because that one comes with a figure also. Then you'll have 2 figures and 2 vehicles. And I swear to God, here you are, like 82. So I'm 6 years old. I was born literally right at the end of 75.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the roof opened up, the angels were singing, light, and like, oh, and I'm like, Dad, you're the smartest person ever. And that was it. Like, I can tell you right then, it was G.I. Joe. Yeah, I had Transformers. I had some Mask. Jason the Real Wheeled Warriors. I absolutely love that. But, Motu, He-Man stuff. I had a lot of that stuff, but it was always G.I. Joe. Like, that was always, and I still have my collection from when I was a kid.
Well, that was the next follow-up for this is how much of that original collection do you still have? And how did you preserve it? Because that's the other thing. At our age, I mean, things happen. We move and things get shuffled, put in boxes and disappear. I tried my hardest to keep my Joe collection intact. And we moved to one house or another. My mom moved and recently they retired to Florida. And I was like, I'm sure they're all in the basement or in the attic. They gutted. It's gone. I had a bag full of my O-rings, gone. She found my guts, though. If you remember guts, the little soldier guys that were like, she found a bag of those. I said, send it to me. I want to save them for some dumb resion. But
I love Muscle Men.
The muscles, yes. They were just
muscles, army men in general. My dad lived in the same place till my sister graduated, which would have been almost 2000, maybe. No, yeah, he was in the same place till 2000, so everything stayed there. I moved out, and then I moved back after that. Didn't work out with a female.
It happens. I've been there.
For some, G.I. Joe was the one thing I made sure that it all stayed together. And I just had bins and boxes of them. Now, I don't know what happened to any of my Motu stuff. I don't know what happened to my Transformer stuff. Mask stuff, like all that stuff. I don't remember ever selling it. I can't imagine my dad doing it, but I always was like, do not get rid of the G.I. Joe stuff. So to ask what I still have, I still have my original Scarlet, Stalker, Ace, Doc. Like, I have a bunch of my original figures. I have the USS Flag, which was mine as a kid.
God, that is so crazy.
Aerodrome.
The space. Where is that stored? I mean, that was all right. So before you go any further, tell the story of getting that flag. For those who don't know, that is like the largest play set of all time. Like, I remember as a kid, there's very few things I remember when going to a Toys R Us and walking down the aisles. Seeing that, I will never forget because it was so big on the bottom. So I'm like, who could bring this home? Like you said, 70 years old. That's too big.
I don't remember ever seeing it on like a shelf, and probably because I had it, so I don't.
How did you? Was that a gift, a birthday gift? Like, did you wake up one morning, Santa brought it for you? Like,
So that meme that goes out every year. This is the 38th year of not getting the USS Flag, and I'm like, that's not right. This is the 38th year of me getting it, or next year will be the 39th. So I was really, obviously I was in the G.I. Joe, as you might imagine. Mm-hmm. A lot of stuff, and like I still have a lot of stuff. I still have my Mobat. I still have a lot of the stuff. Now, some of the stuff I actually have gotten rid of because I've gotten a better version of it. But it means a lot to me because of other things that happened in my life after my mom passed away. Mm-hmm. So, for 85, it was 85, right? That's the year the flag.
All right.
So I'm opening gifts, as we all do. Mm-hmm. And if you remember the old G.I. Joes, they were if you put them back to back, they made like a rectangle, and your parents could wrap them.
Yeah.
So I know they're either Star Wars figures or G.I. Joe or whatever, right? So I open them up, and it's 2 shipwrecks. Now I already have 1 shipwreck. I don't even like it. I don't even like the figure, but I got 2 more. I'm like, whatever. Put it aside. I grab the next one. I know they're figures. I open them up. 2 more shipwrecks.
Whoa, wait, what is this? All right.
So now I got 4 shipwrecks, and I already have 1. So I have 5 shipwrecks. I grab another pack. I open out 2 more shipwrecks. I'm like,
oh my God. Then there's a knock at the door. It's a Navy recruiter. He's prepping you. He
pretty
was like,
much.
we're getting ready. Boy, in a few years, you're coming with me. Your folks have signed you up.
So I grab another one. I open it up. It's 2 more shipwrecks. So now I have 8 shipwrecks.
Wow.
And I already have 8 brand new ones. And I can remember looking up and seeing this death look my mom was giving my dad. Like, it was a death look. And I don't understand it.
And what about your sister? Your sister must be like, I better have a bunch of what he's getting. This is right now not fair.
And I do remember grabbing another pack of figures and they weren't. But then my dad was like gone, right? And I opened up another pack, like, oh, thank God. Like, I can remember thinking, like, and then I was like, why don't you go downstairs? And I will go downstairs, and there is my dad standing behind the box of the USS Flag.
Oh my God!
Now, my dad was a sailor, and he felt that if you're going to have a boat, you have to have a crew.
Man!
So the whole purpose of all those shipwrecks. Now, my mom was mad because she assumed that at 85, I'm about to turn 10, that I would have figured it out. I didn't figure it out. I'm an idiot 9-year-old going, oh my God, this figure. I hate this figure, and you don't understand. As Allah, God, whoever you worship as my witness, I had no clue. Like, it never dawned on me, like, I'm getting the flag. Because nobody got it.
At that point, that's my next follow. It's like, did you have any friends that had it? So there's no, it's not like, oh, Tommy over next door has one. I figured I might get one.
No, I do have a funny story about that. No, none of my friends had one. Like, no one else that I knew other than this one kid who didn't live in my court. His grandparents lived in the court. So if you remember, everyone will always say, I have their craft carrier, but it's at my grandma's house. And you're like, you roll your eyes. I'd be like, I got it too. You want to go play with it though? Well, there was a kid that his grandparents lived. I lived in condos. They lived at the end of the court.
Okay.
They had it for their grandson because his parents didn't have room for it or whatever. And he was a couple years older than me. I only met him a couple times. And they had it in their basement. So there was actually one kid out there that was telling kids that he has it at his grandmother's, and he wasn't lying. But everyone else, I think, is
see now we have phones. Now if a kid is talking some smack, it's like, oh look, this is me posing with it. Back then, like you said, there was none of that. It's like, oh well, grandma has it. Oh yeah, sure, grandma. I heard you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, right.
I don't know where I live in Detroit, Michigan, right, close to Detroit. And the common one was for people to be like, oh, I have a girlfriend, but they live in Canada. Now, mind you, Canada is, it's a half hour from me.
It's not that far, but still, it's
close in Ohio. Thank God.
Oh man!
But yeah, I was that kid that had the USS Flag. I never took it for granted. People will go, "Oh, you were spoiled." I was
they just they're just hating. That's it. No. Because I do the same thing with as an adult now with all the stuff that I could actually get, and then but my dad also did. But I'll get into that after. But one more part because I still want to get on this. When you saw the flag, like I'm thinking as a kid, if I was to see that flag, I would probably just faint. I would probably just fall on the floor and be like, I can't. Like when you said about with the toy and the light, I would have felt that euphoria with seeing this massive thing. That and then the stress of putting it together would probably hit me also. But man, that must have been some. I'm sure you were for the next few days. You had all your friends over to play with that, right?
I don't remember. I remember going down the stairs because the basement went right just down. And I remember my dad standing behind. I don't remember. I mean, I know I had to have been excited, but I don't remember. It doesn't stand out how it felt to get it. And I didn't put it together. My dad did. He was the one that would put it together. The one thing he did was he put it on an old door that we had, and the old closet door. So because it was in the base, I would move it up and down, into my bedroom, and it took up so much. It's 7.5 feet long.
It's massive.
But it's not just 7.5 feet long. It's about 3.5 feet wide and I think 3 feet tall. So people never think, they don't take into consideration how wide it also is. I mean, it's the size of a twin bed for the most part.
Yeah.
But he put it on a board so when I was in the basement, I could move it, just kind of shift it, because you can't all the trestles underneath it will start to collapse if you move it too much. So he had it on that, and I was able just to kind of shift it back and forth. I needed to push it against the wall or anything like that. So,
Oh my God. So wherever
I
you
was
had it,
really,
it stayed there, right? I mean, that's like you just said, you didn't really move it.
when you moved it was a whole day ordeal because you're popping off the clips and then you're taking everything upstairs. And, as a kid, you don't always remember exactly how it went together. These days, I know exactly how it goes together.
I take
That's
pictures.
pretty
I
simple.
take pictures of everything. I was like, oh shit, did this go there? I don't know. Take a picture.
I fix copy machines, so like when
Mhm.
if it's a circuit board I haven't been in a lot or in a while, or I don't do a lot, even sometimes I just take a picture just so you can see,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
you don't want to be like, why do I have a different service code, and then find out that there's a wire that's stuck behind something. You have that picture, you go, oh, there's something missing here.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
It's
I
like
even
this
fire this
wasn't
thing
there
up.
before. Who's been touching this? Hey,
Yeah.
Johnny, come over here. Ah! Somebody messing with this shit. Oh man. Oh man. But that is I just keep thinking about that flag. You just blew my mind with that. Because you know what it is? I had all right, so when I was growing up, my dad was big into GI Joe, but the big ones. And
Yep.
I remember when my parents they divorced when I was 3 years old. And my dad, not a deadbeat dad or anything. He picked me up on the weekend, paid child support. Good dad. I'm not going to shit on him. But this was one of the things. When he would pick me up, he was like, all right, what toys are you playing with? And I'll always remember this conversation because I was like, I don't know, I play whatever I play. He's like, come on, let's go to the toy store. So we went to the toy store. And I'm pretty sure it was a Toys R Us or a KB's. Those are the only two that were in my ear. This back in New York. So I was like, all right. He was like, oh. And he gravitated to it. He went over. He's like, oh, G.I. Joe's. I'm like, what's G.I.? And he shows me, and he holds up Duke. And he's like, oh, I had the big one. My dad got me this, and he's got the helmet. Oh, wow, he's got the helmet too. He was more wowed by it. And he's showing me, and it's like, look, all these other ones. And I was like, oh, well, okay. What am I getting this? And he was like, yeah, well, you got to get it. Where's the bad guy? Cobra. And that was our thing. So every weekend when he would pick me up, he would get me 2 more Joes. A G.I. Joe and a Cobra. G.I. Joe and a Cobra. Next, I had a stack of these at home. And then when those the bases started coming out, and I remember I was telling my mom, I was like, well, I got all these Joes. She was like, oh, I'm going to get you a base. And then I was like, oh, well, let me ask my dad about it. I was like, Mom's getting me this thing. I think I need the Cobra, but I'll get you the Cobra. So there was almost like competition, So it's like, I always remember this one Christmas where I had the Joe HQ and I had the Cobra base. And I was like, this is amazing. And I was an only child. So I'm like, I have all these toys, and I spent the whole weekend and the holiday time just putting it together. But the point is, it was really, and sort of like, I guess it connects your dad to help doing that whole thing with the Joes and connecting with you. And he's playing a big part because he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to get all the shipwrecks and make the sailor crew and go that extra mile. It wasn't like you were, had it pinned up on your wall. I'm going to be good this year, Dad. I need this. That's fantastic. And that's the same thing with my dad with the Joes. It's like, I didn't know about it. And then once it was now in my zeitgeist, it was all around me. Then I'm seeing the cartoons and all that stuff, then the comics, and then I absorbed it, and it helped me build an even closer relationship with my dad. Even though he wasn't there, I knew when I saw him on the weekends, I knew he also liked to watch the cartoon. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the toys. He would sit down and he would do little setups. He was like, all right, we're going to put these guys up here. Oh, where's that bad guy? I'm sure one bad guy. Well, we're going to the store. And we're like, whoa, we're going to the store. So I'm sure a lot of it also had to do with just the one-up with my mom when I got home. I was like, oh, how'd you? Oh, we had a great time. Dad took me to go see RoboCop, and then we went to Ibiza, and we got some Joes. Look, I got some more right here. And she would get all pissy about it, but I was like, oh, you're buying him all this stuff. And I was like, well, that was his way of like, well, he wasn't there. Whole big thing. He tried to come back, didn't work. Mama didn't want him, right? But still, he was there for me. Thank you, Dad. You hooked me up. I still obsessed with this. Some things never let go, and it's fine because then I try to pass it to my kid. A whole different world, man. These kids, and we'll get to that because that's another topic of how collecting has changed.
Yeah. But I gotta say this, like, part of it is us playing with the toys, but it is those memories that we have that our parents, and we don't realize we're making. My mom would go to Kmart and she would come home and she would remember GI Joe figures that I didn't have, and she'd go to again. Another store that some people might not know. It was a place called Kmart, and they had a toy. And I don't know about you, but Kmart had a wonderful they
had a great toy aisle.
They had this chicken and Jello, and it was like every Saturday we went there. But if my mom went there, she'd go grab something, and sure enough, she would come back with it and a couple GI Joes, and it's a memory. And again, that's part of the reasons why, because she passed away when I was 13. I've kept all that GI because it takes me back to a place. I walk into the GI Joe room, and it takes me to a place where I don't need to worry about things. There's no bills. There's nothing but just these.
It's your happy place. It's a trigger. It's definitely a trigger, and it's no different. I tell people all the time when I was like, oh, why do you have all this stuff? Like, well, I'm not. There's some people that collect to be completionists. You know, they just have to have everything. I'm not one of those, but I have everything.
I was classified.
Yeah, you see. But as I'm looking around my room now, and it's like I see the current version, the classified version, but then I could also see the original, and then, like you said, it triggers a memory of when I got that, or when I was playing it with my dad, or when my cousin Manny would come over and he'd bring his Joes, and we would spend the whole weekend just setting up battles. It brings back memories. So to me, to have all this displayed around, it's not so much of, well, this is just me wanting to put my, no, it's living memories all around me. You know, and then this is my happy place. I enjoy sitting here, and I work here, and I do all my stuff, and I have all the stuff. And my wife, when we started dating, I had some stuff, you know, but not to this extent because we didn't have the space. We got a big house, we got some space. I was like, oh, you're getting all this stuff. I'm like, because I can fill it and I could do it. But then, you know, and then I explain it to her, and she sort of understands. She gets it. So that's a plus, as long as I don't go too overboard like some people, you know. But oh man, yeah, you know. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right? I don't know. Hey, but well, you also know. Well, even besides ours, there are some people, and you know, why not? That's one of the questions I have. How do you feel about mock collectors? People that just want everything on card, never taking anything out, want everything on card. What's your thought on that?
I don't understand it. Because I want to play with my toys, and I know it sounds stupid that a 49-year-old is saying that he wants to play with his toys.
No,
but dude, I have a boatload of figures literally sitting in front of me almost at all times, right? And I mess around with them, and it actually aggravated me. He didn't stand back up.
I have my favorite Outback. Oh, I love this Outback.
I actually like the Tiger Force one.
Oh, you like the Tiger Force one?
Oh, I love that one. I'm sorry. I love Outback. But man, there was something about the Tiger Force. The fact that this guy's walking with a big tiger. I love the gray hair. I don't.
Oh yeah, that's right. He had the gray hair.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think that's the best head sculpt they did. The gray hair one. I don't know why. Anyway, you can collect however you want. It's not my money. You know, you're not forcing me to. I don't understand it. I mean, I can understand if you have some stuff that you want to keep in the box or on card, and
but you can have your favorites.
I don't understand it at all. Now, if you're displaying it and you're at least able to see it, or maybe I always thought it'd be cool to have a room where it's set up like a Toys R Us, where maybe you have all this stuff mint on card, and when you walk through it, there's the pegs and you can scroll through them just like you were going to buy them, right? I always thought that would be pretty cool. What I don't understand, and if I offend you, I don't really care. The people that buy stuff and then just shove them in bins and never look at them. Like, I don't get, like, you bought it. Hey, I bought 9 of these. Why? If that's what your retirement is, let me explain something to you. You're doing it wrong. Because things aren't worth money. Yes, some toys will be later on in life. For the most part, this isn't the 80s. Everyone knows about collecting. So I think I have more of an issue with the people that just get it and they just slam it in their closet. I don't know. Again, it's your money. You can do whatever you want with it. Right? You're not forcing me to. Those are the people that I just like. I look at and you shake my head. At least the mint on card. Again, if you're displaying it, I don't get it because I want to be able to open up the toys. But then again, those people are looking at it going, why would you want to ruin that beautiful artwork on, the vintage series or.
Oh, man.
But at the same time, if you gave me a vintage Storm Shadow There's no way in hell I'm opening it. All right. So,
Yeah,
I have a couple anyway, so it doesn't matter.
and well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I brought it up when you did your top 10 for the year, and you had Duke, and I was like, yeah, Duke. I have a Duke on display. I move him around, do all the stuff, and then I have one man on a card on the wall.
Yeah.
You could have your favorites, but and that's one thing. Thanks to YouTube, we get to see. We all knew these stories. We've heard these stories of people that collect things almost like a toy store, but you don't really see it. But now, thanks to YouTube and these people willing to open up their doors to their home and showing it. And I've seen some where they have nothing on display. Everything is in box on card and number order, rows after rows, taking up full spaces in the home. And hey, you're a brother and a sister to us. We're all collectors. No hate, but I just don't see the enjoyment. And I've said, you know what? And I remember there was one in particular, and I was like, all right. So I see his room. I say, oh wait, he does reviews. How do you do these reviews, sir? How do you review something you do not take out of the box? So I clicked on one. This is what he does, and it's again no shame. This is what makes him happy. He takes it, he shows it just like we would have seen in the store, flips it around, does a nice little view of the plastic windows. You see, bubble. Thanks for watching, because he never opens it. And I'm like, oh, that would bother me. Don't you want to see the outfit? Don't you want to see him all fully equipped on display in a diorama or something? What? I don't know.
There are, again, I'm not going to say my review style is better than anyone else's, because mine is it's long form for the most part.
It is.
It's very in depth. Not everyone likes to hear me talk. I don't even like to hear me talk half the time. I have a style. Bobby B's Battleground, he has his style. There's all these guys that have their own style. I have no respect for people that try and review something when they don't have it in hand. What are you reviewing? I mean, it is one thing to let everyone know, hey, this is what's coming. That's what I do with my live streams, right? Hey, you know what? This is coming out and you can look at it. You cannot review something if you don't have it in hand. And I also don't think you can review something if you don't open it. I mean, you can review the packaging and how it looks through that package, but how do I know what the joints are like? How do I know if it's not broken? How do I know when there's all these QC issues, or even if the paint, you can't see all the paint on it. If the guns are gummy, God knows the classified have a lot of gummy issues.
Hey, I almost stopped collecting altogether with digital classified when they got rid of the plastic, because I was like, I can't see the figure. I can't see it. I was like, come on.
The boxes were so nice. Like,
I know, they were nice, but I couldn't see it.
Like, go back to that. Only don't give me bananas, because people literally would stick bananas in water bottles. So
well, that was what I was going to get at too. It was like I heard all these horror stories, people opening up and finding a Barbie or something when they got home, and I was like,
let me just say this: can you swear here?
We could do it now. Why not? We're already past the turn mark.
I'm not going to. If you're a POS that buys a figure and then sticks an old figure in it or a banana and returns it, collecting is expensive.
It is.
And if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But don't go rip someone off and take back something that isn't the product because you want to save a couple bucks. Especially when there was the plastic-free packaging. Mm-hmm. Imagine like grandma buying little Johnny something, and she gets home and it's Christmas and it's some rotten banana because some a-hole, trying to be nice, swapped it. And swap the fig, it's real. I've never gotten it, but I know Bobby B, he's a good friend of mine. He's gotten it. He said it finally happened to me. You have to be careful when you return, when you get something on Amazon that isn't brand new.
Or even I remember walking in a Walmart and then just seeing things. I'm like, that doesn't look right. Who's in there? And you could see it was like somebody swapped or the mix matcher just took certain pieces. So you're like, oh wow, I got the last one of wait a minute, where's this gun? And it's back. Somebody just took the accessories.
Yeah. I've never seen it personally. I know that I wasn't able to cancel one of my orders from Walmart, so I took it back to get my money back because I already had it. And the lady opened it, and it was plastic free. And I said, "Are you opening it?" And she's like, "Yeah." I go, "Man, a collector's not going to be happy, but I like that you're doing that."
Yeah, I got to check.
Because for me, I don't care if it's open. And I said to everyone, I go, "Hey, if it's not brand new, brand new, like they just dropped them, when there's that plastic free, open that up. If you're going to buy it, open it up. And if anyone says anything to you, an employee, say, I want to buy this. I just need to make sure everything's in here because people have been swapping stuff. But we don't have that problem anymore. I mean, you saw people that swap it and they just return it. And if the employees don't look, the employees don't look. There's nothing you can do.
Or if they don't even pay attention. Because I've seen that too, where it's like clear as day. You can see it's a different character on there, and I was like, "Oh wait, this is Copperhead. What is this? This is supposed to be BT. What just happened here?" It's like they don't care.
One of my moderators, he used to work at Walmart years ago, and he said and this is, years ago, well before I met him or anything, and he said people would bring back toys, and they would always call him, and he goes, "I can't tell you how many times I said." That's not the right figure. We're talking about. It's like, I'm a toy collector. Don't try that. And he said, I can't tell you how many times I had to turn people away and tell them, I see what you're doing. No, that's not going to fly.
Oh man, so in fact, it's funny that comes up because recently I had an issue. So I was looking for the Snake Eyes Commando. Right, that version. I didn't have that one. I have all the other ones. I was like, my cousin
mean on the retro card or the
no, not the retro card one. The
with Timber.
With Timber, right? So I was like, oh yeah, maybe. And then my cousin, he's always sending me messages. You need it for your class. Oh, you're setting him up. I got the bike and then all this stuff. I was like, oh, this will be great. He's like, you need to get it. I'm like, all right, fine. So I find it on eBay. Saw this guy selling it. Saw everything. I'm like, all right, cool. I ordered it, right? Got it out the way. Wasn't that bad of a price. And then I sent him a video. I was like, good, got it. And he's like, you didn't get him. You got the wrong one. I was like, what do you mean? Read the description. He's like, look at the images. He screwed up and he was showing the Snake Eyes that came with the white Timber. What was it, number 35 or what it was? But it was the other one. So I'm like, what the hell? But the description was for the Commando. It says Snake Eyes Commando. And I was at work and I'm not paying attention. I'm like, holy shit. So then I go and I send a message to the guy. I'm like, hey, which one do you really have in hand? Are you showing this one? And then he wasn't even sure. He was like, oh, well, which one do you want? I'm like, well, I want the one from the description, but not the one that's displayed in the images. Maybe you have both.
There's a number on it.
Yeah. like the one with the number, this one, because the number was in the description. And he's like, oh, well, I was like, maybe you haven't, you just, swapped the images. See, that was what I was hoping for. Nope, I got a refund though, thankfully. That wasn't the one. And then I found it from somebody else. But that just to your point, it's like, that could have happened to me because I was like, oh, he wrote the description, but pictures don't match. I could have.
Well, you know what? Hey, shit happens. Sorry.
Yeah.
It happens, right? Like someone makes a mistake. I can deal with that. I sold comics and someone hit me up and said, hey, you sent me the second edition. I'm like, I didn't even know it. And he said, well, I said, send it back. I will refund your money. Obviously send you, I had to eat the cost because it was my mistake, which is fine, and then I was able to change it and put it back up there. But if you make an honest mistake, you make an honest mistake. I mean, we all do it, right? Anyone that's ever been in a relationship with a female knows you make lots of mistakes.
Lots of mistakes.
But again, like for you, he made an honest mistake. It sucks. I mean, it is right there. It does have a number. It's very easy, especially on eBay. All you got to do is scan the barcode. It pretty much brings everything up for you.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping that maybe he had also the other Snake Eyes with the white Timber, and he just messed up with the images when he was attaching with the description. But that was
the one. I know they did the retro one, which is one of my favorite figures. That first Commando one is way underrated. It's such a good figure.
Snake Eyes. We get so many Snake Eyes.
We
get more. That retro one with the bear on oh my god. I remember I jumped in the chat for and you guys were talking about it, and I was like, oh, we're getting a bear, and it's like 9 inches tall.
It's like 9 inches tall.
Yeah, this massive bear, and I'm like, okay, but I don't know. It's something about it. It doesn't do it for me. I get that. I know the episode they're talking about and he's radioactive. And then I'd rather have the old man also, if we're going to go that far with that episode.
Yeah.
But man, are you looking forward to the bear?
Yes.
You are? All right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying because I'm trying to think. All right, because I guess this is the other thing. Whenever something like that comes up, and I'm not sure of, I try to envision how would I would display this. Like I get where it would go and the purpose of it. Maybe he's mauling someone. I guess that's what it really comes down to. Also, like we've only seen those images, and we don't really know what it's going to look
But
like.
I have stuff like this, AWOC figures.
Uh-huh.
So it could be used in a lot of different displays, or a lot of different photography. I mean, I've tried getting more into photography, and even though I still suck at it, I still enjoy doing it. I don't know, a giant polar bear.
It's unique. I give it that. It's unique. I don't know anybody that has that or would say they have. It was like, hey, you want to see my collection? What do you got? I got this fucking polar bear, right? Oh, whoops, I got this big ass polar bear. It's like all right.
Mythic Legions has a giant bear coming out. That's like $120. So people are super excited over that. And again, if you've dealt with any of the animal companions that the G.I. Joe team has done, from Fiona, the crocodile,
Naga Hide, the Fiona,
Naga Hide, Mutt and Junkyard, Raucous, obviously the Timbers, they're awesome. They are, and I
a lot of articulation.
And I've talked to Lenny about it, the head designer, and he said like we did a lot of research to make sure that this is the size. So when they talked about the polar bear, they were saying that we want it to be in scale to what a polar bear would be. Because and Tony, the painter for G.I. Joe, he told him, he said that image there doesn't do it justice. That's not scaled.
See, all right.
And it's going to have its own price point. So that's another thing.
Oh, yeah. That's the other. They I knew right off the bat because this thing is going to be massive. More plastic. Anything bigger, we know. Even just for the packaging itself, everything is going to get larger. Who knows? I don't know. I might get sold on it. There's some things. But one thing I will not get sold on is that Raptor. You ordered one? You have one coming?
Can you give me 1 second? Because someone has to ask me a question.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. Oh, the Raptor, people. If you don't know, huge plane. Like if you can see over here, I have the Dragonfly, which is massive. It's a massive helicopter. G.I. Joe Dragonfly, Wild Bill, all that stuff. But they have a Cobra Raptor that's coming, which is even larger. And I don't know. I don't know. We were just talking about the flag and displaying something that massive. So I'm so all right. So I would just. All right.
This is what you're talking about?
Yes.
Now you said you won't get.
Hold on, we're gonna put this big.
You said you won't get this figure.
So I have no, not the Raptor. I'm thinking of the Cobra, the plane. Am I messing up? Did I blank?
Oh! You mean the Rattler?
The Rattler. See, I'm screwing up. The Rattler, because it's so far off. I saw when they displayed it, and I was like, nah, it's massive. It is massive.
Yes, that's why they made the wings collapse. Yeah. No, that one doesn't come out you won't have it for another year or so.
Oh man.
It's about as wide as it is long, and it's almost as long as a Dragonfly.
Yeah, like I have my Dragonfly, and that right there, it takes up so much space.
So much.
It's beautiful, but
I backed it. So to answer the question, yes, I will.
So what are you gonna? How you gonna display it?
I have a year to figure that out.
See, that's
the future Lawrence problem, all right?
Right?
The future punk problem, all right?
That is so. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I remember when we showcased it, they showed it off, and I was on display. I'm like, that's beautiful, but I don't know where to put it. I don't know. Would you hang it up, and then even then that would. I
think they did a really good job of making it so the wings will collapse, so you can put it. Lenny has talked about it where. They want it so you can fit it onto a shelf. Now, again, what size shelf they are looking at?
I don't know.
Another story.
Yeah, that's not. Maybe it's not against a wall type of shelf. I don't know because.
And that's why the wing is supposed to. So you can collapse like one wing.
That's one wing,
and then that would drive me nuts. Like, again, I don't want them to collapse unless if you're like doing like showing that it's like in a photography, like you're doing some sort of like, hey, we're able to pull the wings up. But he did make it so you can put it on your shelf. You know, a lot of things that people also don't think about, and I know I did it when I was collecting, is a lot of people buy stuff, they don't display their stuff, they're doing photography with it, you know. And let me tell you, as a displayer like I am, who wants to do photography, that display starts getting destroyed really quickly, and then it never gets put back together. So it's like 3:00 in the morning, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's put everything back up. I have no idea because I'm putting my display back together, which is in my living room. Again, I'm a single guy, so I can display.
You can put them all over the place.
But my my TV stand, the TV is hung on the wall. I put the dragonfly in front, along with the hiss, with the HMS, and one of my stingers, and my 3D printed Wolverine. Okay. And it takes up a lot of space. So where I'm going to put this Rattler, I have the Robo Skull, which if you don't know what the Robo Skull is, you look into it. I crowdfunded that 2.5 years ago. We just got it. I don't know where I'm going to put it. I have no idea where I'm going to put it. It's not as big as I originally thought that it was, even though I saw it at Joe Fest. But it's still just takes up space, and there's more vehicles coming.
Oh yeah. And that's what I'm gonna bring up now, because you did a video a few months back saying you were sorry. You were like, "Oh, I can't believe this," and you know what? You weren't alone. I was in that boat. A lot of people were in the boat. Same thing. It's like everybody wants this and that. It was like these things are big though. These things are going to be massive. How are you going to fiddle it? People don't think about that. They don't care. It's just the fact of whether it's a nostalgia or just the ability to see it on that scale. People want it. They want it. And I have a feeling, I'm telling you, even though I know they've said it, they would never do it. But if, let's say, Hasbro out of nowhere says, hey, we're going to make a very limited edition of a flag, people would buy it. People would buy it.
See, they wouldn't.
Oh, yeah. You think buy it or make it?
No, well, they won't make it.
Like, yeah,
I know that.
Yeah, they definitely
people wouldn't buy it. People want the ability to buy something, but it doesn't mean they're going to buy it. And what I mean by that is, you go look at that Star Wars Black Series TIE Fighter. The thing is huge. Same with the Snowspeeder. They sat on shelves till they discounted them because no one would buy them. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants a Vamp because it was hard to get because it was a Pulse exclusive. But you know what? A Stinger, I can get all over. Matter of fact, they've had them on discount already because they're all over the place. Now, Gridiron helped sell a lot of those. There's no doubt about it. But you're going to see, I believe you're going to see more and more stuff stay on the Hasbro Pulse site because Hasbro doesn't want to do too many and then people not want to buy them. But when it's a limited edition, it works out great for them.
So maybe you would know this answer. So I've heard some rumors that the plan that they may have is that instead of just doing the Hasbro, the Kickstarter, the labs and all that, that they would have it per order. So that it'll still be there on the Pulse site, but it's per order. Like you order one and then we'll let you know when it's ready, that type of deal. Because a lot of people, I guess, are still trying to get the Dragonfly and you have to go on eBay or whatever. And maybe Hasbro's like, hey, we could be making a little more money out of this if we did per order.
So there's a few theories out there, or I wouldn't call them rumors because they're not coming out of anyone but people making stuff up. Some more theories. When you look at some of the stuff that what Hasbro has done with Star Wars and with Marvel, where they're not doing HasLab, but they're saying these are made to order and you have a limited amount of time. So just like the same way that they do the HasLab where you have 45 days, they say, hey, you have till this date. However many are ordered, that's how many. So if one gets ordered, they're going to make it. If 30,000 get ordered, that's how it's going to be made. The crowdfunder thing, and people hate the crowdfunder for the HasLab, for Hasbro, because they think a multi-billion-dollar company shouldn't do stuff like that. You can say that any way you want. There's a reason why they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They're supposed to make less mistakes than more mistakes. I never can get that right. Right? I mean, but again, at least when I crowdfund the HasLab, I know I'm going to get the product. You crowdfund something else, you might not get it.
Oh yeah, you don't know.
Does that? I don't think that they'll kill it for the Joe brand right now because it does so well. And I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see less and less of the HasLabs, but you're still going to see them because they're supposed to be dream projects. The problem is, you can put out these vamps and stingers, and people are going to buy them. So you don't have to do that as a HasLab. Now the Rattler, the Dragonfly, well, those are dream projects, and I know people say they don't need it, but I guarantee you that if they said, "Hey, here's the Rattler," there's a lot of people that wouldn't back it. But when it's only so many, it's never going to lose value. Not that I collect so I can make money, but it is nice to know that if I'm ever in a bad spot, I can grab that hiss and I can turn around and sell it and make my money back. I can grab the Dragonfly.
I look at my vamp like that,
And the vamp's the same way because now the stinger, on the other hand, good luck. They're a dime a dozen now.
It's on Amazon. You can get it always on sale.
Yeah. And I have two of them. I bought one and then you got one.
You did that the gridiron mod with all that stuff on.
No, that's not my stuff.
That's not your stuff?
Well, that's my buddy's stuff. So my buddy, I can't say all of it. A lot of the reviews that I do are from my buddy Greg. He says, hey, hey, do you want to borrow this to do a review? All right, cool. That's why he buys so much gridiron stuff. So he never even saw the vamp.
What?
Before I finished it. He never saw his own stinger. He never saw the Ramen Racer. The Ramen Racer I picked up from his house when he wasn't even there. His girlfriend gave it to me. He didn't see the Ramen Racer till after my review was done, and he picked it up and took it home and opened it up.
So wait, so does he display them? He leaves them in box? Like what's he doing?
His goal is to display everything. He moved into a new place, but like anything,
it's
life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to do that sometime.
Yeah. So he'll let me I just did the mech for the Trouble Bubble.
Yeah, Trouble Bubble.
He just keeps bringing over pieces. I go, Greg, you don't have to buy everything. He's like, I do. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't have to buy everything. I appreciate it because it helps me out in my channel and everything. But you don't have to. He's like, I do. I'm like, all right, well, I'll continue to do it. But
so while we're on the topic, because you just brought it up with the Trouble Bubble and the mech and that gridiron set, looks cool and everything. But this again, and this is what I'm saying, never apologize when you're like, oh, if this is going too long. Don't apologize because you had so much trouble trying to fit until you figured, oh, well, you can't fit the two. Thank you, because a lot of people probably would do the same thing, trying to mess with it, trying to shove it in. I was like, this isn't going right. Why is it not going right? Well, you're showing it's not meant for that. It doesn't look right with all of that on there. And I get it. It looks nice at first, but there's certain things that just aren't practical.
I've talked to the owner. I've had him on, and him and I will disagree on things. And I really do like Mark, the owner of Gridiron.
Mm-hmm.
But I've told him, I'm like, there's a lot of things, in my personal opinion, like you should have better video tutorials on how to do this. That's why I do it the way that I do it. And I do it because there's no instructions with it. So I'm showing you exactly what I'm going through. Because some people get it before me and some people will watch my review and then like, okay, well, I can figure out how it goes. I had somebody tell me that I had the Trouble Bubble on the wrong way and that's why it's not sticking. Like, no, it's literally keyed to go a certain way. Mm-hmm. The thing with Gridiron that is wonderful so far is that nothing needs to be modded. Like you might have to take things off, but it's all stuff that pops off and you can pop it right back on. So you can put it right back to your original vamp or stinger, Trouble Bubble, anything like that. But there are some things that just don't fit properly. Or you have to struggle with it. Once you figure it out, it's all good and works well.
Yeah, that's always an issue, and that's why I do appreciate your long form, in depth. There was one in particular that always comes to mind, and I remember when another buddy of mine had this issue, and he's like, "Oh, something's wrong," and I was like, "Wait, let me send you." And it was for Doc with the goggles and the helmet. So when you see this, you're like, "Oh, this is great. This is Doc." I mean, with the glasses, you're like, "Oh, you put the glasses, you put the helmet. This isn't staying. What's going on? Am I doing something wrong? Should I put the helmet first and then the goggles? Should I put the glasses first and the helmet?" Having all this issue, and then I saw you had those issues, and then I sent to my buddy. He was like, "I think I'm doing it wrong." I said, "No, no, look, this is just an issue. It's not that easy to put together like this," and that's why I don't appreciate too much when someone says, "Oh, we're going to review this." And I was like, "All right, we take it up," and then they show it all put together, and I'm like, I know you had issues. How did you do it? Did you bend it? Did you have to stretch out the sides of the helmet? But they don't go into depth on that, and you do.
That's always
you're showing.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. And again, and I say it, hey, there are other wonderful reviewers that are going to show you how it looks. But how did you get to this point?
Yeah, yes.
Did you have to heat it up? Yeah. I don't heat my figures up until I know that I have to. The difference is I know how much force I should have to put on it and how much I'm willing to before I say, hey, I'm going to stop the camera and I'm going to warm this up. So this may be something. If you want to warm every single one of your figures up first and move the joints, it's no big deal. A lot of people do. And it's not the worst thing in the world, right? You heat the joints up, you move them. Because again, they've sat on a boat, coming from China for 6 to 8 weeks. And then who knows how long they sat in the factory. And again, I'm in
where
Michigan.
They're stored in the conditions. Yeah, it's freezing.
Okay, I'm in Michigan. It's 22 degrees right now. If you grab a classified that just got off the FedEx truck and you open it up and you're gonna break the damn thing. All right. There's a reason why you don't jump in your car when it's this cold and just go. Let that oil kind of roll through a little bit and get a little bit of lubrication going. I like to show all that off. And a lot of people said, you probably, stop going through all of the articulation. But the point is, it's like, there's always someone new coming in. Mm-hmm. So, my question is, you see these people, they do wonderful reviews. You look at Articulated Ninja, he does great photography, great posing, but how long did it take you to get to that point? And that's what I want to show people, how easy it is. Normally what you see when I do the posing at the end, when I'm trying to show people, get them in one foot or whatever.
Oh, one of my guys just fell. Great. I just heard somebody.
We all know that. We all know that.
Yes, I just heard that. I'm like, what the hell? Great.
Yeah, we all know that one. But it's like, how long did it get? Now, that's not normally how I'm going to leave a figure, but you can see if you can get them in decent poses. And that's what I want to show everyone. Like, because there's other people that are going to look and be like, well, I'm having this problem. Now, I miss things because I try not to watch many reviews, if any reviews, before I do it. Because I want it to be going in.
Because then it trickles in and it clouds some of the stuff that you may have seen or may have not seen. And, I get that. So I'm the same way.
But sometimes, again, it's not bad to watch some. It's kind of like, because I've had people mad at me. They're like, oh, you said you watched Bobby B's. That's not a good way to do the reviews. Then it's like, well, are you going to tell me that someone that's going to go review the brand new Dodge Challenger, they can't watch another reviewer because maybe you'll see something that, you would have missed. I missed all kinds of things on my Nemesis Immortal review.
Oh, man. I got him up there. I can't stand him up. I have him on one of the Hasbro stands flying because he can't stand him.
Heat him up. He does have the thigh cut. I didn't realize that. You just have to break it. Heat them up, and you can push the feet up. The feet do move. They go past. They do move. Yes. The bottom foot sits like this. It pushes into the piece of plastic. You have to get it above it, and then it will move up, and then you can pose them.
You see?
I did a review. I didn't notice either one of those things. I bitched about it. He was on my most disappointing. I think it was my second most disappointing figure of the year. And then someone's like, you can move the feet. And then someone showed it to me and I heated them up. You just have to push. Once that plastic goes on top of the other one, it will move. it still would have turned out to be a disappointing figure because
It's just the fact you have to do that. Yeah, I mean, but let's say if you don't, you're a collector and you want to be cautious with your stuff, you don't want to take that chance.
Exactly.
I mean, look at all the people that were breaking some of their figs that came with the dragonfly. You know, we saw a lot of those with ripcord and snapping legs and stuff like, oh, it happens.
Yeah. And again, that's why I know I'm willing to take the chance. I'm willing to buy these figures. Most of the figures I don't make my money back. You know, I'm monetized, so most of these figures I don't make my money back. Depends on the time of the year, but G.I. Joe obviously does better than, you know, other figures. But I'm willing to take that chance. But again, I'm not saying people don't know what they're doing, but I also know what I'm doing to get it to a certain point because I don't want to push things too far. And if I say, hey, I have to go heat it, I've had other people that they'll message me and say, hey, did you have to heat the figure up? And I'll be, I didn't, but it might be a pretty good job to just go and do it. It's not going to hurt anything.
If I feel I'm putting too much pressure, I stop. And I'll run to the bathroom or something, run some hot water, and then I'll just wiggle a little bit. And then just let it sit. I'm like, all right, let's see.
And I do believe that there are people that try and break figures on purpose when they don't like a company. So, I mean, they will force something, and you've watched it, and you're going, you forced that. Now, I can see everything in your collection. You know better than that. But clicks, if you're monetized, leads to money, and that's what people will do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. It's so crazy. That's oh, man. All right. So what was it? All right. So here's a big one. And since we were talking about collectors and people, they should know better because clearly who's buying the G.I. Joes? It's people from our generation.
Yes.
I feel that Hasbro has really dropped the ball in continuing this because as I tell others that when I talk about my collection and we're collecting, I'm like, we are the last physical collectors, our generation. Because Hasbro, at least when it comes to G.I. Joes, are not making a new cartoon or anything appealing to the younger generation to keep that going. This is it. It's like when we stop, does the Joe line stop? You know, well, what are they doing? Because yes, we got the comic is still running strong and they're going to introduce some new characters. That's great. But even the comic industry is struggling right now because people just don't read.
No, I don't read comics, but not the new G.I. Joe comic. It is one that is thriving right now. Okay. And the comic book stores have talked about how many they're ordering. Like, it's doing really well. But I'm with you. But here's one thing, and I don't know why Hasbro and the G.I. Joe team and who's doing the comic right now? It's Kirkman.
Yeah. It's Skybound. Yeah.
All right. So the Energon universe is using the classified figures. And so now they haven't said it, but if you look, a lot of the figures are being based off, like Nemesis Immortal is based off the Skybound figure. Now, it takes 1.5 years for figures to be designed, 1.5 to 2 years, which means somewhere along the line, they were working together to know what the design was going to be. A lot of that Skybound, even if you go look at, and I've only seen images, but there's a whole HISS warehouse or whatever, and you see the different canopies that came with the HasLab. So a lot of these classified figures are going to be based off what is in the Energon universe and vice versa. Where now you still have the Real American Hero line that Larry Hama is still writing. Mm-hmm. That is what the original stuff is still going to be based on. But you are absolutely right. There is no reason why there shouldn't be some sort of cartoon. There is no reason why. I'll say this again. The second movie was decent. The first movie was The Snake Eyes movie was a fine movie if it wasn't Snake Eyes. Yeah. If it was just some random movie, right? Mm-hmm. Why can you not make a good G.I. Joe movie? They've already written it for you. You go, you start from the first comic and you read on and you adapt it into a modernization, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They've given you the outline.
there's so many great stories that they can pluck from, and like, all right, we're gonna take this story arc, or I don't want to spoil something that we talked about off air about a particular character that would be great to join the line, has a fantastic story in the comics, and that could be told out in a movie or in a cartoon series.
People would love, and I think that they could do something similar to what the MCU is doing. Now, I think the MCU is, in many ways, right now, it's oversaturated.
There's too many.
All right. Yeah. But if you're doing everything in the same universe, you could have a show that talks about the Dreadnoks and how they all come to be. Everyone would love to see the LARP team. Now, if you know what the LARP team is, that was Stalker, Snake Eyes, and Storm Shadow, and 3 other guys. They were a Vietnam team, and 3 of them get killed. Like, a lot of people don't realize, the G.I. Joe line, it doesn't come from the cartoon. It comes from the comic.
A lot of
characters. Hama wrote that. He wrote most of the file cards. All those guys, they worked on that. The cartoon is a completely separate entity. That's why when people are like, why aren't they doing classified figures, as the cartoon Sunbow? It's because that's not what it was based off of.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're starting to do some more, obviously, with you've seen the polar bear, which we talked about.
Mm-hmm. Radioactive Snake Eyes.
And they're doing the Weather Dominator. That's that's what that whole thing is. Same with the blonde Cover Girl. Cover Girl was never blonde. She was blonde in one episode and at the beginning of the show. But I just lost my train of thought.
No, but yeah.
They need more media. There's no reason why there needs to be a cartoon. They've done numerous cartoons.
That 2011 line wasn't too bad. Renegade, that was all right.
People love that. But
yeah.
Here's what I said. You want to get kids into this, right? And a lot of people don't like the show. I love the show. And my daughter and I, we watched it for years. Have you ever watched Teen Titans Go?
Yes.
It's so much fun.
It is fun. Kids love it. They love the movie.
Imagine doing, again, literally Yo Joe. I mean, they already wrote, and you have a little tiny Snake Eyes and tiny Duke and then you have tiny Cobra Commander and they work together sometimes and they do stuff and people go, that's stupid. Well, it's stupid for you as an adult because you want to be G.I. Joe to be realistic. Again, sci-fi, airtight. I wouldn't call that realistic, right? But you get kids into it. And then kids want to buy these little Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and this Destro, right? And they're watching it with their parents. And we would sit down and watch it with them and be like, yeah, not me because I'm 49. I don't want little kids, all right? Little kids are for young people. I'm not young. But they need to have something like that along with something that appeals to teenagers and adults like Renegades. And then you need to have a real movie.
They definitely need something. Because, I mean, even now, like if you walk into a Target and you see the G.I. Joes, and I remember my son, he's 8, so we'll go down and I'm like, oh, look at this one. And he's like, what is that? He has no idea of this whole line, and it has the nerve to say 4 and up. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not getting anybody, but it should just say adult collectibles because the only people that know this stuff is the adults.
And that's a Hasbro thing. But again, so look at the Transformers movies, right? The first one, man, you got good promise. And then they all went downhill because they wanted explosions. I thought the Bumblebee movie was good. But that
was fun.
How hard is it to sell a robot that transforms into a car to a kid? So you don't need media. Hey, look at this car. It turns into a robot. Kids, awesome. Hey, look at this military guy. What's the military, Dad?
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that what people are always bitching about on the news? Some people are. Okay. Well, what is this? I don't know. This is from Vietnam. What's Vietnam? I don't want to explain Vietnam to my kids. That's what school's for, right? Vietnam's so far away from their generation. So you're right. But there needs to be something.
So here's the question then, and I'm sure this is the dilemma that Hasbro is having because we've seen the movies and they put big names, Rock, Bruce Willis, when they did all that, and it didn't do well. Special effects, all that stuff was great, but for the younger audience, maybe that's their issue. They're like, well, it's a lot of shooting. Yes, no one dies. You see the explosion, no one dies. But still, it's still guns. And if we're pointing this toward kids, maybe they feel in the current climate of things, it just wouldn't go well. So this is why I'm thinking, well, maybe they should just cut that off and make this a teen type of a show for adults. Doesn't have to be no killing, but just because of the context, and put that on like Netflix or something on streaming. We're not going to get this on regular TV, but just so that way at least you have something that a younger generation could latch on to and then continue on with the brand. Because at this point I feel that once we age out, I'm like, all right, we're done collecting. That's it. That no one is going to be there to buy these Joes, and Hasbro is not going to be able to sell them because no one knows about them.
And I think that's what a lot of people worry. Like that's what a lot of people fear. I think G.I. Joe, it's always been reinventing itself, and they tried reinventing it with the original Classified line, but no one liked it. Yeah. So they did this shift, and I'm hoping that going forward, we are going to see classic figures from the O-ring days. But I'm hoping that we're also going to see them, and this is what Lenny's always talked about, modernizing some of the stuff, because we need them to be modernized. And there are more and more kids that are coming into it. There's more and more 20-year-old. And you look at the G.I. Joe forums, like you see that there's all these people that they never collected G.I. Joe. They're Marvel. They collect Marvel Legends, but they see how wonderfully designed they are, how they articulate everything they come with, and
all the detail. Yeah.
But you're right. You need these younger people to come into it. And then you look at the G.I. Joe movies, and once again, it's like the people that went to see it, right? They looked at it and said, that's not the G.I. Joe that I grew up on. Where's the storylines? I don't have the story. Now, you could say the same thing about Transformers, but the kid is saying, oh my God, that semi turned into a robot. I need to go see it. They're not looking at other than, well, there's The Rock. But I can see The Rock in 100 different movies.
Did you see Transformer 1, that new animated one that they did?
I did not see it.
I wasn't going to be a fan. I was like, this is one of those things. My son was like, oh, come on, let's see it. That was fantastic. It told the original story. It looked great. I'm like, wow, why can't you do this for G.I. Joe? Why just Transformers? And I get it. It's a little easier sell because, like you said, robot turns into a car. It sells itself, right? Yeah. But with the Joes and guns, and it gets complicated. But man, put some effort, because clearly there is still a market. We are still, our generation is still around, still interested. We're still buying the stuff. So try to figure something out, and it's frustrating.
And one of the craziest things when it comes to G.I. Joe is I gotta close this door, so that way my dog can come through it once I.
Yeah. Roman.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, you have to sell it to you have to sell it. And I just don't think that they do a good job. But okay, so that's what I was going to say. The G.I. Joe, because of Hasbro, not the G.I. Joe team, but because of Hasbro, like Lenny and Tony, they designed the action figures. They only deal with that. Yeah, they have nothing to do with the media. It is your brand, Hasbro. So why are you not going to everyone and being like, hey, we need to make it, so we want to do a movie and we want these figures here. How can we work this together? Hey, Skybound, Larry Hama, like, you wrote all the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. We want you to come on board before it's too late. I mean, the guy is not in the greatest.
He's like in his 80s now.
Yeah, and he's still writing a real American Hero.
He's still touring. He came to town like last month, and doing autographs and stuff.
I think it seems like every year I hear like this is his last time, but he's supposed to be at Joe Fest again. Supposed to be at Joe Fest this year. He wasn't last year. Now I don't need autographs. I'm not an autograph seeker. But it's great that he still wants to write it, and he talks about it. And I think. Carson, they're the one that are doing Operation Recall, where they've gotten all these designers of the original Joe line to do O-ring figures. But he's done these books, and there's video. They were part of the book if you backed it, early on. And he has interviews with these guys, and you see these interviews with Larry Hama and Ron Rudat, and they talk about it. And G.I. Joe, for some odd reason, Hasbro has them. the right side isn't talking to the left, and it makes no sense. Like, it's your product. This is all profit you don't have to pay a royalty.
Yeah, that's
even Transformers. You do. Even Transformers. There's that whole Takari thing.
Yeah,
with
for the
G.I.
robots.
Joe was like, hey,
that's all money, in-house money. That's all theirs. That's profit.
But sometimes you like, do you not like money, Hasbro? And then you look and you go, oh no, you clearly do, because we see the price of everything.
They just don't have the right pieces in place. I don't know.
It's frustrating.
It is very frustrating because, like, for example, The Rock, he has his own studio, and apparently he said he was a big fan of Joe's, and that's why he wanted to be part of Indoors. I'm like, oh, so then maybe you'll come up with an idea, or like you talked about, there's so much good content already in the comics. So even if you can't come up with a brand new idea, you have no good writers, pluck one of these stories, put it on the form, pull the Marvel trick, right? And there you go.
How well did it do all the way up into Endgame?
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier, it's not the exact same, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
You know, Civil War. It's all that. And again, you don't want me running G.I. Joe because I never make figures that I don't like, right? And there's a lot of people like figures that I don't like, right? You want somebody that is in control of that. And you have to give them control, because there have been, like John Warden, who just lost his job. He was really in touch with G.I. Joe, but if you don't let him do everything, but why is there not somebody? I mean, again, I'm not going to get into Hooded Cobra Commander. It ain't coming, anyone. All right.
Oh my god!
But
just get the 3D printed one on eBay. Yeah. Everybody's got the same mold. Go get one.
Bonaventure, he's the one who produces all the Transformers movies, which aren't that great, right? And all the G.I. Joe stuff. He doesn't care. So why do you not find? You cannot tell me that there's not a producer and a director that grew up on G.I. Joe. That is a good director and good producer that says, yes, I love this lore. Oh, and also, I'm a pretty good damn producer, and I know what people want to see. You don't want me doing it because I don't know anything about that. And you don't want someone that says, well, you know what? I'm sorry. I just don't really I don't like the war. I don't like military stuff. So we're going to try and change it a little bit. It's too violent. I'm sorry. It's G.I. Joe. All right.
I'm telling you, there's got to be something. Put it on Netflix. That's it, and see what happens. They throw everything on it. They've turned all kinds of things that are super violent in animated form, and it works.
Okay,
out.
You bring up Netflix.
Yeah.
Look what the Hemsworths are doing. They just had, Chris Hemsworth just did Extraction. Look, I made an Extraction figure.
That was awesome. Oh,
Extraction figure, right? Mm-hmm. Awesome. And then his brother just did Land of Bad. That is another awesome movie, right? Well, you can do it, so why not? Like, everyone loves Jack Reacher, right? The Jack Reacher show is
awesome. That is a great show.
Yeah, like
coming back, and it's got a spinoff. Did you hear? They're doing a spinoff already. Oh, yeah. The female person that was in the group, I forgot her name, but she's getting her own.
The hot one. Oh, wait a minute, they're all hot.
Well, that too. I loved Reacher. That was a sleeper hit too. I remember seeing. I was like, "Oh, this is like a throwback show." And then next, another buddy was talking about it, and they were like, "Hey, are you watching Reach?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is picking up." And then the second season came in. He's such a badass.
Okay, I love Tom Cruise. You say what you want about him personally, whatever. He makes great movies. Mm-hmm. I know someone's going to say, "Well, this one." Okay, not every movie was great, but for the most part, he makes great movies. So when I saw Reacher and I saw Alan Richter, is that his name? Something like that. How big he was.
Yeah,
I'm like, but then everyone said if you actually read the books, that's how Reacher's supposed to be. This really big, huge guy, not like Tom Cruise. So I love the two Tom Cruise movies, but I was able to take myself away and see a whole nother version of Reacher and be like, this is awesome. And it is awesome. It is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I don't think the guy's the greatest actor in the world, but he has a part. He has
a presence. He sells what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to be this big burly dude that just gets shit done, and it's believable.
Yeah, but we saw Gladiator 2, and people got mad at me. I'm sorry. Denzel Washington didn't act. He was Denzel Washington. He's the only person that didn't act in Gladiator 2. He was just Denzel Washington. I'm like, Everyone else is at least trying to have an accent for that time. You are just like,
No. He's just gonna do it. It's like I
yeah,
can't do that. I'm just gonna act the way I act, and I guess
exactly.
he's such a big name, and it's like, all right, do you, do you, all right. All right, that's fine. All right, whatever. It's almost like the whole Keanu Reeves thing. It's always a joke. He's playing himself in all these
Yes.
movies. Like, well, he's Keanu Reeves. We see him and whatever. People accept him.
Which you're okay with if that's what you're expecting.
Yeah.
But if I see Keanu Reeves and he's supposed to be back in, the olden times,
Oh,
it's not Bruce
Roden.
Campbell.
Remember that?
Like if it's Bruce Campbell going back in time as Ash from the Army of Darkness, all right, I'm okay with you acting like that.
Oh, man, this is so crazy. All right. One of the other things I want to bring up is just because we sort of talked about it, but so when you started, what triggered to bring your collection to YouTube? What triggered that?
Well, so before the classified line even started, there was another Walmart G.I. Joe line. There was the 4-inch line. They had a hiss. They had 2 different hisses. They had
Is that when they made the Sky Striker? Didn't they make a
no. This was shortly before. This was probably about 5-6 years ago. It was after my ex and I split up.
Okay.
So they had the hiss, a Off Striker, and then they had the Fang. And they were also creating. They were making figures, and there were a lot of it just were repaints of the modern 4-inch figures that they had. Towards the end, they started actually doing a few new molds. But anyway, I started picking those up, and I just put it on YouTube. Like I just compared them. I wouldn't say that I was reviewing. I didn't know what I was doing. I just compared the originals to these and see how they fit and how they work together. Because I'm not one of those people that has an issue putting O-ring figures with 4-inch figures. Now, for anyone that's listening, going, what's the difference? O-ring figures are built on a 3.75 inches compared to a 4-inch figures. Modern 4-inch figures are thinner, sleeker. They have better articulation. I don't have a problem combining them. It's fine. My imagination works. I cannot combine a 6-inch and a 7-inch figure because that's way out of scale. Unless you're talking about like a werewolf or something like that. Then it really doesn't matter because you expect them to be bigger. So I just wanted to compare them. And then I started noticing like little things where the 4-inch figures, like the 4-inch hiss driver, will not fit in the vintage O-ring version. And that's because the back is actually out of it. Like they had to cut the back because their legs are longer. So he actually won't fit in and you can't close the canopy. It was like little things like that. And then when I found out about Classified, I looked all over and I couldn't see anyone that was comparing the O-ring to it. Now, looking back in it, they weren't trying to remake the O-ring. They are now, but they weren't back then. But I started just comparing them. And again, I wasn't reviewing them as much as comparing them, I would say. And I started noticing little things when you go back to the first Roadblock. He's actually version 2 Roadblock. You can see the cues that they took. Same with Duke and Scarlet. Destro is almost a copycat of it. That figure is so awesome. And I just started, then I was kind of reviewing. I didn't know what I was doing. And I leave them all up there so people can go back and see where I came from and how it's changed. And then I did a few other things. But the big thing, what really started the channel, I mean, I had been doing that, was a line called Valiverse. Action Force Valiverse.
Yeah.
Valiverse makes Action Force. It's not the Action Force from Palatoy that the people.
Someone that worked there, but someone that worked at Hasbro started, or is it there's some story behind?
Bobby Valla, he was laid off, let go. I don't know, from Hasbro. He went on to a few other places. Then he started his own military line, and so we didn't know how deep the G.I. Joe Classified line was going to go. And you started seeing he started creating figures in the 6-inch line. And I was interested in them just because I wanted something to fill in. And when I looked it up, the only thing that I could find was either people saying they are the greatest figures in the world, there's nothing wrong with them, or I'm sorry, they're the biggest piece of shit ever. And I'm like, it can't be either or, right? There's no way that it can be either or. And my buddy Greg, who I didn't know, I met him toy hunting. And I was talking to him on it, and he goes, I have the figures if you want to review them. And I was like, okay. And yeah, I had already
reviewed the same guy with the gridiron.
He's the one with all the gridiron.
And you just bumped into him in the store?
I would run into him at Target all the time.
wait. So you bump into this guy in the store. He starts talking about, and then he's like, "Hey, is that when he's like, hey, I got all this stuff still stored away. I haven't put it anywhere. Here,
no. This was during the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, this is during the pandemic. So the Valeverse has probably been about 3 years old. I would say I've been really active on the channel, not just like putting up videos, for about 3 years now. It might be a little bit longer, but because I've been doing live streams for just over 2 years now. So yeah, maybe close to 3.5, maybe. Either way. And so I got to know him, but he, so we would talk when we would see each other. But then he said, I have the figures if you want to review them. He goes, I've already, and I wasn't doing stuff the same way that I was now. I wasn't unboxing there. So I reviewed them, and I tried to give my honest opinion. And were they perfect? No. Were there some things that were problematic? Yes. But were they way more better than bad? Yeah, like by far. I mean, it kept me collecting, and that's when I actually got into collecting the Valeverse figures, the Action Force, whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. And I started getting for the most part, I got a lot of comments saying, you're the first person to actually give an honest review on these. Because again, everyone was either these are the greatest people, they're totally sucking up to the owner, or they hated him because he was no longer part of Hasbro, and he actively goes after Hasbro, and they just say that they're the biggest piece of crap ever. Again, it has to be somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how there can't be a middle ground. And for the most part, I thought they were really good action figures, and they got better. And that, in my opinion, is really what kicked off, because I think that kind of shot off people seeing my personality, that I'm not trying to get free stuff. I mean, if I get free stuff, if I got a sponsorship, that's fine. I'm never going to change the way that I'm doing things, because this is what has grown the channel to what it is today. So that's really what kicked it off. And then I got into, obviously I'm still doing all the classified, and then I would pick up some other stuff. If you go back and watch some of the Super 7 Tigra, you'll see me get angry on screen.
Or what was it? You just did one not too long ago where you threw the figure. It was you're like, I think it was a Captain America or whatever it was. It was something with the wings.
Captain America, Brave New World Falcon.
Yeah, and I saw you struggling trying to put this. This is crap. It's like that's it.
That was a throw, if anyone was wondering. The Savage Crucible was a toss. I tossed it onto my desk.
Oh man.
Because I was so angry. But you didn't see the half hour that I spent trying to pose this figure just to get on my little productive Susan that spins around, right?
Mm-hmm.
This you watched, and then you didn't see the half hour of me trying to get this thing on here and watching Dan Who, an MCU collector who popped theirs on really easy, and I just lost it. I don't try and do things for effect. That's never been me. And I know people wait for me to be on steroids. They prescribe steroids and lose it, because I've lost it on live streams a couple times. I feel it's always warranted, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not an angry guy all the time.
Oh man, it just gets frustrating. Like one of the lines Jazz wears, they make AEW figures, really nice detailed figures, look great, but they don't stand, and they all have loose joints constantly. I don't know the glue they're using, but they can't. I could put them up, and then within a few hours, they're already slumping over. They just fall apart, all of them, and it's just I hate it. I'm like putting glue in them. Oh.
I don't collect them, but I have never heard a good I've never heard anyone say anything good about the Jazzware figures.
Oh man, like
everyone just says they're junk figures. And
yeah, they are.
And
I
see them, and I don't follow wrestling anymore, but I see them, and they look like fine figures, like the mold and the sculpt. You know, obviously when I see the WWF ones, WWE, it's always WWF. It's not the
Wildlife Federation of
no one was confusing it. Okay.
No. Exactly. Well, it was like, all right. So here's the story. It was a cash grab. They were trying to get the WWE to then at the time WWE to buy the name so they can get some money. And then Vince was like, nah, I don't care. I'll just change the name. I'm not paying anything.
Okay.
So that's it.
I remember that. I gotta say that. I remember that whole thing. And they had the rights to use it in the US and I think anywhere in North America. But overseas they couldn't, right?
Yeah, it was all complicated.
Yeah, and everyone was expecting to change it back to the WWF. And this, again, I don't want to talk about the person Vince McMahon is or what we've seen, okay? But this tells you what a genius he was. He says, you know what? We're just going to change it to WWE. And then they create that shirt that says, get the F out. And he made millions of dollars with that shirt. So all you did was try and force this guy to change his name. He loses it, and then he goes, all right, you know what? I'm going to make the shirt that's going to make all my money back and then some.
Yeah. And even now they're under a new ownership. They have the money to buy it, and they've talked about it. And they're like, nah, we're good. We'll just leave it.
Why would you now? It's only old guys like us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's it. Why? There is no point.
No one really thing I do hate is when they do an old school figure and they just use the old logo, but it says WW and doesn't have.
Yeah.
Like, no. Put the F on there because that's what you're doing.
So there you go. So if they did buy it, it would be just for that, for marketing and for merchandising and for the nostalgia. Like, oh, we're going to put the F back in and do that, So who knows?
And as a kid, we used to always see that World Wildlife Fund on comics. I never once said, oh, is this what Hulk Hogan wrestles for? No.
They had a picture of a panda, right? There was always a panda.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew that wasn't Hogan or Piper. Come on now. I can tell the difference. I don't need to. Yeah, it's bullshit. But yeah, those AEW ones, they look great art, but they just can't pose. They can't stand for shit. And even at the bottom, the stands, you can't fit them on a Mattel stand like you could do with the Joes and stuff. They have to have their own pegs. Or Ringside makes a different stand just for them. Yeah. So I'm like, and to top it off, they've been having some scaling issues. So they were like, they're 6-inch, and on this side of the wall you don't see, but I have this big battle. I've got my Joes fighting wrestlers, all this chaos. But the newer ones from the AEW are like 7-inch. They're like, and they're larger heads and arms. I'm like, that doesn't even look right. What are you doing? So they're not paying attention to the modeling anymore. I was like, I'm done. I'm out.
And that's why people can't stand McFarlane. Because they're like, I want 6-inch.
Oh yeah, no, I
want a Batman to go up against Captain America.
Nope.
But he also doesn't have the rights to do the 6-inch.
Is that what it is?
From what I've been told, that he doesn't have the master license to do a 6-inch figure.
That's crazy.
Where someone else obviously has the rights. The reason why he was able to get away with it and this is what I've been told and read. The 66 Batman. That's a Target line, and because they work with whoever has the master license, that they were able to get them to do it. Now I can't imagine Target like knowing that much, but that has something to do with it. Todd's also talked about how he likes the 7-inch scale, but it drives everyone nuts because, hey, I want a Superman that I don't have to spend $100 for an S8, a Figuarts or a Mezco, Superman or Batman just to fight my $25 Captain America. But you can't do it because Captain America would be like this the whole time. Yeah. And if you're not a toy collector, I just got to explain, like, I can fudge a 4-inch figure and a 3.75 figure together. You cannot fudge a 7-inch Batman to a 6-inch Captain America. It just doesn't work. And I'm 5'4", so I know people are all different sizes, right?
And it's the whole proportion. Even and I tried. I'll like, oh, he's smashing them, and I'll put him on one knee. It's still, but the arms, the head doesn't look right. It's not to scale at all. So it's not just about the legs. It's the whole package. And
AEW is doing that in their own line, because don't they scale with the WWF figures too?
The WWF is a scale, but that's 6-inch, and they have not changed. I mean, they've added recently drop down hips, so I'm getting some of them, and then the double joints, that's fairly new within the past year or two.
That's what you want. You want to have. Yeah. It's the same way the Marvel versus DC. If I'm a wrestling fan and I'm collecting the figures, I want to be able to get, the guys that are only in AEW to go up against the WWE, right? That stuff you're probably never going to see. Everyone wanted to see Sting versus HBK, right? I don't know why, because HBK is 10 times better.
He was younger. he get the job done. That's a whole other topic. There you go. But yeah, you're right. That's what we got when they first started, and then slowly we started noticing out of the box, like, this doesn't look like it. What's going on here? And now it's all.
And McFarlane's the same way. Like, his scales are all over the place. Why is Wonder Woman taller than Batman and Superman? And my buddy Tony, Tony's Figs, he completely he modified it to bring her down shorter. And people asked him, and he explained everything. Like, this is what I did to make her look shorter, or make her shorter, not look shorter. But like, come on, like, these are little things.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Like, one of the things that with McFarlane, he has the Walking Dead license, and they had these really detailed zombies and stuff. Like, oh, this would be cool for like a Halloween stuff, but they're not to scale. They don't look right, and they don't have the articulation.
Yeah, is he doing 5-inch figures for?
What is this?
So you're not doing 6-inch or 7-inch. You're like, we're gonna go with 5-inch scale. Oh, so if you have some of those Star Trek Playmates.
Oh my Lord, it's a mess. It's just so frustrating too, because they look great, the artwork's fantastic, but it's just it doesn't deliver, and that's why I'm still nervous about. I'm sure it's still a rumor, but the whole thing of the licensing deal. I don't collect any of that Marvel Legends, but that whole thing of McFarlane maybe getting into the license deal and swapping out and losing. I don't know. There's all this stuff.
Everyone's really on that about Hasbro losing the Marvel and Star Wars license. And there's a lot of people saying, well, you know what, they should just get rid of it anyway. Well, first off, you have to understand this. The adult collectible stuff is a small part of what Hasbro does. When they have the Marvel Masters license, same as Star Wars, there's board games, there's infant figures, there's kid figures. There's so much stuff that makes them money. But if Hasbro is complaining that the license is too much, other than Mattel, who else can afford it?
That is the big question. Who else? Unless someone out of left field decides to jump into this market.
But again, I mean, obviously, if Hasbro's saying it's too expensive, we can't do it. Mattel's the only one. Maybe Spin Master, but Spin Master doesn't really do anything detailed. McFarlane, he's an independent, so who can get a master license and pump out nearly as many Marvel Legends or Star Wars Black Series? Now, I'm not saying that they won't lose it. I'm just saying it doesn't make any sense to me that the complaint is that it costs too much. But who else is there? There's only Mattel. They're the only other big player in the game.
That is true. All right. And
I would hate to see it. I hate to see it for everyone, because there's a lot of good figures in those lines, and people collect it.
They do collect it. Yeah, well, that's man.
And there is a lot, like from what I have read and been told, when it comes to like the master, like the reason why you never see like a G.I. Joe gun in Marvel Legends or vice versa, you never see Pete's, because once it is either a Marvel Legend or Star Wars Black Series, Disney owns it.
Oh.
So let's say they put the AK, they gave the AK-47 from the Cobra Trooper to one of the Marvel Legends figures.
Mm-hmm.
They now own
right.
I mean, obviously Hasbro would still have the right to make their own that same one, but now they also have the rights. So joints and stuff, wings, capes. That's the reason why you don't see it. Which
Wow.
talk about being like God. Talk about just shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, yeah. Oh boy. Oh, it's well. It's not impacting the things I collect, so I can't stress. That's the way I see it. I was like, I feel for those people that are stressing with all, but you know what? Don't mess with my Joes. Don't mess with my Joes.
Yeah, that's always the one that you're always fearful of, though. You're always like,
Oh,
but you know what? If G.I. Joe went away, there's a lot of other good lines a lot of other good toys and lines that I'd find money to spend on.
Well, there's always well, that's the thing. Like as you see, I have tons of the Mattel WWE Elites and Ultimates, but the truth is, there's only so many Hulk Hogan's you could have. There's only so many Ultimate Warriors I could have. I am not one that I was like, oh, he wore. There you go. See, it's like he wore a red trunk during SummerSlam '86. I can't. No, I'm not getting it just for a fucking trunk. So
this is my first. I bought this to do a commercial for a Legend series, right? And I gotta say, I've never had a like the Mattel WWF figures.
Yeah.
And even though he is pin joint, well, his legs are pinned. He's very smooth. Like it's not a bad figure for $20 or $25. I think he was. He moves really nicely, and I was pretty impressed from what
they're good.
What I had.
They are good figures. That's the thing, and I enjoy them, and it's great. But it's just so many that you can have. But when the classifieds came out, and with all the articulation, with all the accessories, I feel like the sky's the limit. Like I have one guy who's using Sting as a hostage and has a knife to his throat.
And one of the other reasons why G.I. Joe is so good is that the head designer Lenny, it is a labor of love for him.
Yeah. Oh, you could tell. You could definitely tell.
He absolutely loves these figures. He loves what he's doing. It's great. It's great because you have somebody that loved it as a kid, that is a designer, that is making it. It's not some designer that's like, I didn't know anything about it, so I'm just going to design them. Like the movies.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Lenny needs to have some buddies that are in the industry, or at least convert some people. And I was like, hey, come to my house for a few days or some weekends and let me just school you on all this. And maybe you can make something happen on the big screen or something.
Oh, I would love it. That's for sure.
We definitely need it. And so here's one. And I told you about this in an email. I was like, hey, here's a fun idea. So while we're talking about all these figures that are coming out, we know that there's some that may never come out, but we can still have on our wish list, right? So what is one figure that you would like, whether it's in the G.I. Joe comics or in the show, to come out on the classified line? What?
Billy.
You have a Billy?
Cobra Commander's son, Billy. Sorry about my camera, everyone.
No, it's...
So this was made by Tony's Figs. He made it because he's heard me complain and say I want a Billy. He wanted to surprise me, but he was so impatient. So he made me a classified Billy. He is so important to the G.I. Joe story. He's Cobra Commander's son. He ends up training, with Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes. And they've never made... At least not in the O-ring, and I believe they done. I think it was a.
He did have it. Was it an O? I could have swore it was one on card. I saw something long.
It was, I believe a.
Mezco?
No, it was a exclusive to one of the cons. I think,
okay.
But it was well after my time. The fact that Billy isn't in there, he's so important, and he's always the one that I'm going to scream. I'm always going to say Billy because there's no reason why we shouldn't have had him. And I know there's a lot of cool other figures that we, that we need. But to me, it's always going to be comic based. I mean, I collected the comic and read them to probably around issue 70 or so. But to me, I always look at Larry Hama as the true. That to me, that is the Larry Hama, a Real American Hero comic line. That is the true canon. But there's a lot of people that like the stuff in the movies. or the cartoons that we never got. But Billy's always going to be like, why is there not a Billy? There's absolutely no reason not to, because it's not like he wasn't a main character for certain points of it.
Yeah, I would have definitely liked something like that, especially when it comes to the cartoon. I'm not big with the whole Cobra La and all that stuff. I was never really into that.
Me neither.
And this would have been a better spin-off section of like, we have Cobra Commander dealing with issues with his son who has his own faction and dealing with his own stuff, and with his cybernetic part, his leg and all that. It would have been cool. Would have been
cool.
Cool.
There's so much.
And who knows? Maybe this could happen, because that's the other thing that I'm hoping for is that, again, we are a niche thing, but let's say that the toy line keeps selling, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna release some more of these deep cut characters, and then maybe Hasbro and someone from Hollywood or someone says, hey, that can work, that could trigger something, and we could work with that and make this into a show or do something just to bring more life to the IP.
And that's what Super 7 wants to do. Super 7 said that for their O-ring line, they're not just going to put out figures that we've already had. Like, they're not using. I don't think they have the rights to use the original molds. They want to do characters that have never been done before. And I hope Classified does the same thing. And we've seen some of them, to be honest. We have seen some. And I think we're going to be seeing more. Now, what is yours? What thing do you want to see?
Mine is B.A. Bon Appetit Lecrae. And he was the Cobra ship. I should have brought the pictures. I had pictures planned out. My bad. I wanted to put these up. But he was in season 2, episode 20. If anyone listening, you go to Hasbro's website. All the cartoons are listed there. And it's Raising the Flag is the name of the episode. And it was a Cobra ship that sank some time ago, and J. Joe heard a beep, and they sent a team down there. And then sure enough, there is a crazy chef, Cobra chef, and he has a smock on, and he looks all whacked out with his wild hair and glasses, and on a white smock he has like the Cobra red logo. He has his bats that he has programmed to do his bidding and all this. He went nuts. He looks so crazy. This would be an awesome character. I could see him in figure form with just like a meat cleaver and give him with a laser pistol looking nuts, like he's got the wild beard. And then they could even, later in that episode, he snaps out of it. He bonks his head. He gets a wrapping. They put a wrapping on his head, and he wants to work for Joe's and help out. So they could even add that, a little head wrap. It's like, oh, you could have 2 versions. And for those people that are diehard collectors, buy 2. You get one that without it looking crazy with crazy eyes, and then have one looking all happy with the head wrap. So, yeah.
And a figure like that is perfect for an exclusive.
Yeah.
A figure that you don't need for the line, like you don't need it for your collection, but some people would want it. I know people would love to have the Wiper. Do you remember that one, the Wiper?
The Wiper.
They thought the Viper was coming, and he's here to wipe the windows. And at the end,
yes, the old guy that shows up the whole time, the whole episode. They're running around doing this. I'm here to wipe.
Yes,
and he's like the windows. They kept getting the calls. Yes,
but there's the one. You talked about him, the blind guy, the blind man.
Yeah.
Which I have a feeling we're going to get. Why are you going to give Snake Eyes and a big polar bear if you're not going to go down the path of giving the I can't think of his name.
Well, even Quick Kick showing up, and if I remember right, he was still in that episode where he makes his debut because he was filming a commercial, and the fig, we even got the candy bar.
Yes, we did.
When he was eating. So it's like they're already dancing around it, complete. And someone can actually make a whole diorama to a nice little show. I'll do it. And then I'll make a little. There you go. Now you got me convinced to get this damn bear. Because if I could get all those pieces, I would have to do it. Because it was like, I got the old guy, I can get a little cabin. That's not a problem. What was one of your buddies on which on your podcast, the Toy Kind of Mood, he did the light, the little LED light in the helmet. Do you remember? He found this light. It was a few months back, and I was just listening to him talk, and he was like, "Hey, I found these puck lights, these small ones." And you could put it inside the helmet of, I guess, a Marvel figure that was used, and it would light up the eyes. And I was thinking, oh, I could have a little house then, and then I can put the light in the back so it looks like, a light coming from within the house, and then have the bear. I don't know. I'm thinking all these crazy things, but there you go. Now I may need this damn bear, but yeah. And then you get the radioactive snake eyes. That I still want to see how that's going to look. Is he going to glow? Are they going to make him glow?
I bet his hands will glow a little bit because they did that with the
like Bruce Leroy, like
Well, they had the eye and the head that glows on the not the range viper, the I forget what he is. He's the zombie guy because they're the zombie guy.
Oh no, I have him on Mole Rat.
Mole Rat, yeah,
so, Mole Rat over. He does glow. He does glow. That is correct.
But you need a UV light.
Yeah, no, I don't.
You have a UV light. He's not going to glow very well. But the UV light, and same with his lantern. That also glows too.
Yeah, the lantern. Yeah.
And the eyes glow on the regular head. I didn't know that. If you have the regular head and you hit it with the UV light, the eyes will glow. I didn't realize that. I just thought the zombie head did.
Huh. Well, you've gone above and beyond for some of these, because I remember there was one where you did that. What was it? It was a monster series, and they were all glowing in the dark, and you wanted to check how well they illuminate, like with the light. What was it? Remember the whole ghost one? You kept putting the light on it and shining and turning off the light to see how much holds, so to see how bright it would get.
If it's the Operation Monster Force,
that's it. Operation.
Yeah, that was the Joe Fest exclusive for the Forgotten King.
That was it. Okay.
Some of the, I like to show off the stuff that glows in the dark because there's some things that say they glow in the dark and they don't. I'm looking at you, Flaming Hot Chester Cheetah.
The Chester Cheetah, that's right. That was in the
dark. I mean, the figure is fine, but don't tell me it glows in the dark if it doesn't. And technically it does, but it doesn't. BS. But once you get the UV light tells you, like, if you spend $10 on Amazon for a UV light, you'll see if it glows in the dark or not.
Yeah, then maybe I might try that. But it's, and then I got a whole setup. I'll mess it up. But did you? Well, you probably have this R10 that changes.
Yeah, I have every classified thing.
Does that one work out as it's advertised? Because I have the standard one. It does it.
Yeah. You have to put them in the cold. So if you throw them in the freezer, but like you hit it with your thumb, he starts to change again. But his color is always like this. He always has this bluish, purplish color, and I think it has to do with the paint. So you throw him in the freezer for 5 minutes or whatever. Put him in a cooler if you go outside to take pictures or wherever, And when you take him, just make sure you don't touch anything. But he is this real dark blue, and I think. In my in the video that I did where I rated the figures, I did it, and so as you see him on the Productive Susan moving around, you can start to see that he does start to change, but he doesn't fade really fast. But they do not change in sunlight. I did do a short not too long ago where I brought out my 3 original Dreadnoks, Xandar, Zorana, and Zartan, and I did a
Xandar is another one. What's going on with that?
I don't know. I should have him in a couple of days.
All right, we need some Xandar. Let's take it.
Well, he should be out. I mean, BBTS, Pulse, and Amazon have all moved him up.
They moved them up because mine's. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. The 20. Yeah,
BBTS. All right. Amazon is pushed up. BBTS said they should be charging soon, and Pulse also told me they should be charging. My hope is that someone charges me and I can cancel the other ones before.
Oh yeah, I played that game before. I'll get some on Amazon. I'll get some even through Hasbro, Pulse, and see which one ships first so I can cancel the other one.
It sucks as a reviewer because it is a game that you play. It is a gamble that you play. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. As the channel has grown, I've been able to shy away from some of that stuff because I know that people tune in to hear me, whether or not the figure has been out for a week or two, or someone did a review a month ago. People still tune in to hear me, so I don't have to pay an extra 10 or 15 bucks sometimes to get figures. But if you're able to get them first or really early, it is definitely beneficial to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, again, if you're getting paid, like like I said, I get monetization, it offsets the cost.
I remember this one, and it was funny too because I just received it. It was and I think that's the one that fell. Actually, it's the Halo Jump Trooper, the Jump Soldier. Yeah, so I love it. I love the detail. I love everything about it. And I'm like, I wonder if this parachute works. And then it's like I felt like it was just a second. It was like, oh, a new video, and I see you throwing it up in the air. I'm like, what is he doing? You went outside, and he's like, well, let's see. Does this parachute work? This is for testing purposes, and you just chuck it up in the air. And I'm like, great, someone did it because I was not gonna do it. I waited so long for this thing to show up
for education.
Education, I would say for education purposes. But you know what? It did work. I mean, it's up there.
They did say that and I said I wouldn't do it, but it will break the fall.
Yeah.
That was so. I got the figure. I did the review, and me taking it out to do that was at that moment. I'm like, well, let's just take it out there. That's why if you look, I'm in khakis because I just got home from work. I always change my shirt. Yeah, right. But I would have put jeans on if I would have thought about it. But I didn't even think about it until after I walked out and did it. And it was just fun. And then there's the slow motion at the end of it.
Did anybody watch you doing this? And they're like, what is this guy doing? There
were some other people, some kids I saw across the street that were probably wondering what this old man is doing, and I'm yelling for education.
Oh no. There's two things I got before we end this, and this I have to bring up. There was another one that you did that again. I'm like people don't understand. If you're not sure of what I'm talking about, please check this man's channel, A Punk with Toy. Please go take a look at these videos because they're very interesting and entertaining. And the one that you did with the snipers with the ghillie suit, you go out into who knows where and you start hiding them and you put little flags so you know where they are. I'm like, he's going crazy. Now he's going crazy because he's like, which one really hides well? Let's see.
So that came from I'm not going to get too much into it, but I am not I talked about Valiverse. I'm not a fan of Valiverse.
Yeah, he was one there.
Right? There's lots of reasons. Mm-hmm. His ghillie suit, it looks like a green Swiffer. It does. Right? I did a whole video and I made a joke that I was dusting with it. People got super mad at me. But that's how it looks. And then Hasbro came out with theirs. And at the same time that Valiverse came out with theirs, Gridiron dropped one too. Now, again, Gridiron is all 3D printed stuff. Now, this is not 3D printed. I did not pay for it, but my moderator did, and he's like, "Hey, I'll send it to you if you want to review all three." Because people kept asking me. So once I got the Hasbro one in that looks like a Christmas tree, it does.
It does.
I was like, well, if I have all three, why not? Why not go out and see how they work? And that was really fun. And you actually I did get to see that they all have their own benefits of them. Like in different types of brush, the Swiffer Valiverse, it would match. The Christmas tree, which was the G.I. Joe one, it matched. Mm-hmm. The Valiverse one, the Gridiron one, it just looked better. It seemed to be more like a real ghillie suit. And it looked like it could be dry brush. It looked like it could be, something that's, like living grass or whatever. But I had a lot of fun. And I had to watch exactly and remember where they were at. Because as I'm walking down that hill, I did a short where I raced the Vamp and the Stinger. Mm-hmm. That's the hill. So I'm by myself. Okay. And that's really steep. Like you don't think it's that steep to your 48 years old.
That would have been something to see. It's like, all right, let's feel. Oh, and we just see you tumbling and going all over. It's like, oh, he fell. He went down the hill. He wins the race.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then the best part was at the end. at the end, my mic had died, so I was letting it charge. And when I get out to do it, my son and his buddy were filming something at the top. I had no idea they were going to do it.
Oh.
And I was like staring at him, and his buddy had no idea who I was.
Oh,
and I
he's
think
like,
his buddy
that
was
weird
like,
guy.
and then my son looks and he's like, "Is that my dad?" I'm like, "I've been sitting in here the whole time."
Oh,
he hasn't noticed my car or anything. That was a lot of fun though, and people seem to really enjoy that.
It was entertaining. It definitely was, because it's stuff that people think about doing but don't do it, and then you're doing it. So it's like, all right, well, somebody's doing it now. I can watch this.
Yeah,
Let's see. Oh, okay, there you go.
The other one that did very well, I still laugh, was me building shelves.
Oh yes,
people enjoyed that, and I think a lot of it had to do with my daughter and her interactions. They like the story.
Interesting layout with the story with that room. You know, I was like, what was, you know, you show this brick bar set up, and then you see the room and the plug, and it's like, what was happening? I'm sure they were having a lot of good times back in the whatever 70s or 60s.
We had no idea. It wasn't until I was at work and my ex messaged me that her dad found a swing while he was doing some work, and he dropped down the swing, and it was like a wooden swing. It was like a flat wooden swing.
Oh boy!
And that's when she put everything together. And then I talked to somebody that was older than me, and he goes, "They used to have parties like that, where on one side the bar was entertaining, and that door in that room, that was the other entertainment."
Oh boy!
But that was my stepdaughter's room, which is now the G.I. Joe room.
Holy moly!
But we had no idea, because there was so much stuff, and I think she still has pictures of it. My ex.
Are the neighbors on either side? Are they older? Like, maybe do they recall or remember the family?
No. Because I live in a townhouse.
Okay.
So we're not attached. My neighbor that is attached to me, she just moved in, and even the people before that, it was a rental. It was before we bought it. The only thing that I know is that somebody said that the people that owned it before the renters, and before I bought it, there was renters.
Yeah.
The guys that owned it, they would just drive into the back, like, and again, you're in a townhome, and they would unload their groceries because the kitchen's in the back. Like, you don't drive over the grass, just if you have a bunch of bricks or something, but it's not how you unload your groceries and then drive like. But they acted like they lived in the country, and I think he's the one that did all that stuff. He put all that brick in, all that. There was so much glass block.
Yeah, well,
so much glass block.
It looks like they had fun, but I mean, even just that bar with all the concrete, that takes time. That's dedication. That's like, we need this for life. This is a temporary setup. This is how we will live our life.
It's never going. Like, we want it here, and we want it here so much, it's never being moved. And I know people have told me, like, you just need a sledgehammer. Yes, I understand that. I know how to use a sledgehammer to get rid of it, but it's the problem of the disaster that it would make, getting rid of all the brick and glass block and tile that's like, I know how to use a sledgehammer. If I really want to get rid of it, I could.
It takes a lot of time, money, and stress. And
yes, I already live with enough stress.
Yeah, we don't need all that. All right, man. There's 2 hours. This has been fantastic. This has been a success. I'm glad we were able to do this and talk and introduce you to others that are not so familiar, and hopefully they can jump in on this, because this is very good. You are an entertaining individual. You do great videos, sir. We appreciate you. I speak for the rest of the community. Your long form is the standout. I don't know how I can keep emphasizing. I always tell people, I'm like, oh, these might be too long. I'm like, they're long for a reason. He's not fluffing it. He's going into detail here. There is no fluff. He is not looking up at the wall and saying, I remember there's a sunny. No. There's a reason for all of this. And it's great, because then it also plants more ideas in your head, because there are certain things that you'll put in and it'll look, I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, I guess I could do something else with that. Or little helpful tips, that time with the trouble bubble and putting it on the stand. I only got the trouble bubble because of your video. because I did not know where I was going to put this. I was like, it would look dumb just to have it up somewhere. How could I put this to be displayed? And then you had it where just a sticky tack just to put on top of the Hasbro flight stand. And I was like, would it hold it? Well, you proved it hold it. Let's get it. And it holds. It's up there. So, it's useful. It's helpful.
That drove me nuts. And I did one for Serpentor's Air Chariot, and it was the cheap ones you buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it was truly one of those things where every time I came home from work, I'm like, oh, it's still there. Oh, it's still there. Like, but with the Trouble Bubble, because it was so readily available, I looked at the base, and then I looked at how it sat, and I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is the perfect thing to do. And the fact that Hasbro didn't do it makes no sense whatsoever.
They still, I don't know. And I'm sure the whole gridiron with the mech, that had to be pushing Trouble Bubble units out the door. Hasbro has to know that this is happening. It's like, oh wow, that's a great idea. Look what this guy did. Oh,
they came out after. They came out with that after the sellout. So I don't know if they're still available or not.
Look.
The Python Patrol one, that one I know a lot of people bought. And I think a lot of people bought stuff thinking Gridiron was going to do stuff with it. And he talked about it when I did the streamathon. He was the first person I had on. He said they were in the process of creating a mech. And his son, who's the designer, he looked at it and he said, you know what? I think that the way we have the legs already designed, they'll almost fit in that. And that's where it came from. So if you don't have one, if you're like, I'm not going to spend that much, I have a feeling you're going to get a mech from Gridiron where you won't need to use the Trouble Bubble.
That's what I'm hoping for.
$55 you kind of throw away.
Yeah, I definitely want something, a mech type, because I could just, the possibilities are endless if you had something like that. You put Sergeant Slaughter or somebody and put him in with like, that would look awesome. I'm all for it. And I know he can pull it off. He does amazing work.
Yeah, and I'm not a big mech guy, but it looks really nice.
Yeah, it does. It does. And even on the ones that they deflate now, maybe if I had some paint, but I guess if you're good with paint, you can do it yourself. I could see some cool ideas because you had pointed out, like, look at bullet holes. There are some indents already in there. So
I thought at first I thought there was an issue with the printer because there are some discrepancies in some of the stuff. But when I looked at it more, I'm like, these look like these are supposed to be bullet holes. And they've done similar stuff like that before. So they do a lot of good stuff. And unfortunately, when they don't do something so good, I have to point it out. And I know he doesn't like that, but I'm sorry.
Hey, it's just being honest. We're not saying he's bad. I mean, I still plan on eventually picking up the checkpoint station with the spotlight. That's really cool. That's a cool setup right there, and then with the walls, the bunker wall set up that you could, modulate and put all this stuff. Awesome.
Yeah, I got one of those on order.
Yeah, you see, there you go. There you go. All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you for pulling this off. And I hope everybody that was watching and listening enjoyed it as well. So
and thank you for the invite. I enjoy doing this stuff. I mean, I like talking toys. I like talking about myself.
There you go.
But this is the first time you and I are actually getting to talk, and you never know how it's going to go. I mean, again, you see me on stream, so I guess like you say, hey, you know what, you can carry a conversation, but you don't know. I could be a complete a-hole, backstage, and you could have been like, oh my God, this was a mistake. So you never know how the chemistry is going to go, because sometimes you watch two people you like separately and you watch them on screen together and you're like, they have no chemistry.
That is true. That is true.
And I personally, I had a great time, and I think we had a pretty good chemistry. So
that is cool. And for anybody else, you invited me on your show. Was it February 20th, right?
Yes.
Or somebody is like, I guess so. Whatever. I don't know.
Thursday of February. I think it's February 20th. I have it written down somewhere.
There you go. Whatever. I'll let people know. This will come
out before then, right?
Oh, no. We're thinking of pulling this out tomorrow.
Oh,
for Sunday. Yeah. So we'll prep it and we'll do a little premiere thing and we'll get this up there.
Do you do it as a premiere?
Yeah, we'll set it up with a premiere. So I'll give you a heads up. I'll let you know. Okay. So then that way you can share the link.
What time do you normally put them up?
We're looking at 12 Eastern.
Okay.
We'll go with the 12 Eastern. That's the plan. You know, I'll just clear it up with everybody else. Make sure we have nothing else that's going to bump into it on the
If you
site.
have it, let me know so I can promote it on Instagram and on my YouTube to my
Of course.
6,224.
There we go. Hey, it's growing. It's growing. Think of.
I only know because I have it up right here.
Think how far you come from when you did Gung Ho, the first one.
Gosh.
Okay, think from then
where I'm standing on the
you're
other
standing
side of the aircraft carrier.
Yeah, you know exactly. Think from where that point to where you are now.
Let me just say this, okay? I leave up the old videos for that reason, so people can see where they came from. How the hell I would do a review from behind my bar, and you'd see me walking the screen. Like, why was it? I mean, again, I didn't have to be a video expert to be like, hey, I should be able to clip this rather than hit record, walk. But again, I wasn't trying to do it. I was just, hey. But I look at some of those and I'm like, and here you can see.
Oh yeah.
I had no microphone.
What is that showing me?
Yeah, I just take your word for it. Like, why anyone continue to watch me, I have no idea. That Gung Ho one though, I've seen. I remember a couple of those ones where I'm like, this is showing you a lot of my collection. It didn't dawn on me that you're not actually seeing the figure. But I wasn't looking at reviews. I didn't know. So we all come really far. And here's another, just for anyone, if you ever have any questions about YouTube that you want to ask me, shoot me a message. I am not a gatekeeper. I absolutely hate the people that gatekeep. If I've learned something and you have a question, I will give you my honest answer. Not everything that works for me will work for you, and not everything that works for you will work for me. But I hate why is it that I struggle making something for 6 months and then I figure out if I see someone, especially a friend of mine that's doing the same mistake that I did, he doesn't need to sit there, or he or she doesn't need to sit there and wait until they figure it out on their own, rather than me say, hey, by the way, I used to do that. You might want to try this. I hate that. You know, those are those people that are always trying to get ahead of somebody. Sorry, I ramble.
It's all right. And you also have a live one called Rambling, right?
Yes, so, Monday night toy.
Monday night. There you go, people. All right. So thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Thank you.